To the 330 Sports Show. My name is Justin Coffin. Today is Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023. I was looking back. We had our guest on at this time last year at roughly the same time. I think it was August 21st. We're going to bring him on in just a minute. Just wanted to remind you that we are recording live down here at Youngstown Studio, downtown Youngstown, Ohio. And we will be bringing you plenty of great stuff this week. So today, our guest is going to be joining us from Columbus, or from the Columbus area. He is an Ohio State beat reporter. On Thursday, we're actually going to have, we've talked about NIL. We're going to have the Penguin Collective down here to talk about Youngstown State and their collective group that is supporting the athletes with their name, image, and likeness. So we'll talk more about that at the end of the show to prep for Thursday. But without further ado, let's bring in our guest live from the Columbus area. I believe the east side of the Columbus, getting ready to head down to campus soon, Mr. Steve Helwagen. Steve, how you doing? You hear me?
I'm doing good. I hope, can you hear me there? We're all good?
Yep, we're all good. We gotcha. So, Steve, I wanted to ask you this first, totally non-Ohio State related, but last time we had you on, you were talking about golfing at Muirfield before the Memorial. Did you? And follow up, how did you do?
Well, this hasn't been really that great of a year for golf for me. We've spent the last couple of months moving from one house to another. We're finally in our new house. And so I didn't get to play as much golf this year as I would like. I did go and play in that outing. I think I broke 100, but not by much. So, yeah, very difficult golf course, and a lot of fun, though, to get out and to play such a great course as Muirfield Village. I've gotten to play it a few times as a member of the media, and it's outstanding. It never disappoints you. So, yeah, I think I'm about ready to put the clubs away for good, other than I'm eyeing that open week after the Notre Dame game in late September. There is an open week on the schedule. I may try and do a golf getaway then, but otherwise, I think I'm going to put the clubs away for the time being, because things are about to get real here in Columbus. The season's about to start.
Yeah, it is really tuning up. So, Steve, last time we had you on, I believe back in the spring, it was right before the NFL draft and stuff. And we still, we were talking then about who's the quarterback going to be in 2023? Who's the quarterback going to be? Who's going to start? Is it going to be Kyle McCord? Is it going to be Devin Brown? And what are we, August 22nd, about 10, 12 days before the season starts? And I'm still going to ask you that question. Who is going to be the quarterback for the Buckeyes?
Well, it's been my belief all along that it was going to be Kyle McCord. And I still believe that he'll be the guy that takes the first snap when they open the game against Indiana on September the 2nd in Bloomington. 3:30 start, first game on CBS, I think, in 25 years, back to the West Virginia game in 1998. So CBS taking over a Big Ten package this year. But McCord, to me, I think is probably still going to be that guy. But Devin Brown has played outstanding by all accounts during preseason camp and really pushed the envelope. And, that's what it is. So I'm of a mind it's still McCord, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Maybe later this week they'll have some type of an announcement, but they are going down to the wire on this thing. It wouldn't surprise me if both guys get to play in these first 3 games, perhaps.
Now, okay, so let me just follow up on that. Since the first 3 games, we have Indiana, YSU, and Western Kentucky. So not a murderer's row to start off the season. However, not the easiest schedule. Western Kentucky's going to throw the ball around a little bit. Indiana's still in your conference, a Big Ten team. So are you of the mindset that you maybe do play both of them and you have to have a starter going into that game 4 against Notre Dame?
Man, that is a tough question. And I think there's a lot of arguments that could be made just for the the continuity of the team to have one guy as the starting quarterback that gets all the work. And yet, I think that Ryan Day wants to do what's best for the players and the team, and I think they're still working through that. And I take it as a positive thing. One thing about this camp that was different was they had enough depth at every position group across the board that they could play 11 on 11 on two different fields. And it wasn't always a group of starters on one field and a group of backups on another. They mixed those guys up and basically just got reps and just ran plays and ran plays. And I think that gave both quarterbacks plenty of work. They were getting about 70% of the snaps on their respective field. And so they were still getting a ton of work. People will say, well, without a starter, they're not getting the timing down with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka. I view that as kind of a trade-off. I think that, you've got, McCord did start one game against Akron as a true freshman a couple of years ago, when C.J. Stroud was injured. But otherwise really hasn't played a whole lot. And Brown's played even less in just one season at Ohio State previously, and he redshirted. So to my way of thinking, this has been a real positive in this preseason that Ohio State's been able to get both these quarterbacks a ton of work. And again, as I said, they'll settle it in the next few days. Somebody will get the first snap, but I think the other guy will also get a chance to play, and they'll just go from there. That's all they can do. It's weird that probably every other starting position on the team, the other 21 starting positions, except for maybe one or two, seem to be etched in stone at this point. But quarterback remains an open spot.
Okay, so Coach Day basically said this week, as you kind of just elaborated on. The offensive line seems to have taken shape. It's in a much better position than we thought maybe in the spring, at least with a starting five, maybe a fifth or maybe a sixth, seventh guy. So it sounds like Jackson, Jones, Hinsman, and then Simmons and Fryer are going to be your starting five. Is that your understanding of that?
That's what it looks like right now. Certainly Jackson and Jones at the guard positions. They're the returning starters. Carson Hinsman, slight edge over Victor Cutler at center. Josh Fryer looks like he's pretty well set at right tackle, although Coach Day did say that the freshman Luke Montgomery will play. Redshirt freshman Tegra Tashbola. I don't know if he redshirted or not because either a redshirt, I think he might be a redshirt freshman. Tegra Tashbola will also play, but Josh Simmons, the transfer from San Diego State, has really impressed the group and come in and done a nice job there at left tackle. So it really says a lot that you have a transfer from San Diego State starting at left tackle, but he's impressed them. So that's where things are at right now with that position in that group.
Now, Steve, you've covered the Buckeyes for a long time. Coming into the season with this offensive line, what's your comfort level between a 1 and 10, 1 being a low, the worst, 10 being, all right, we're great. We got Orlando Pace out there, all that.
Oh, I'd put it around a 7. I think that's a fair place to put it. I think that, again, there's a lot to be concerned about, particularly when you watch the way that the offensive line played in the spring and the negative plays that they gave up. Sacks and different things in the scrimmages that we got to watch were a little bit troubling, but I think since that point, they've done a good job of putting things together and improving. And the coaches, everybody seems to believe that this 5-man offensive line is ready to go to start the season. We'll see how put that to the test, obviously, when they play Indiana. We're talking about the relative strength of these teams. Indiana, again, has had a couple of down years. I think 3 wins and 2 wins since they were really good there in 2020. And Coach Allen may be fighting for his job going into this season. So they're going to let it all hang loose. They've got 23 guys out of the portal to try and emphasize that roster and energize that roster and improve it. So we'll see if all that helps. I mean, the last 2 times Ohio State started the season on the road against a Big Ten team was 2017. JT Barrett was the quarterback in his senior year. They trailed Indiana into the third quarter even, and ended up blowing them out after that. But then 2 years ago, C.J. Stroud, it was kind of drizzling at Minnesota. They trailed at halftime up there as well. So to me, they have got to come out and not take anything for granted in that first game, and that includes the play of the offensive line. Those guys need to be on point from the start. So I guess that's what we'll all be watching for in that first game. How well do they protect the new quarterback, whether it's Brown or whether it is McCord? How good of a job do they do, protecting that quarterback?
Okay. Well, and this team, the unknowns at quarterback, the uneasiness, we'll put it that way, of some of the fan base with the offensive line, but the skill positions are obviously the strength of this team, with the wide receivers that you had already mentioned with Harrison and Ibuka, and then your stable of running backs. So, Steve, let me ask you this question. Ohio State has sent a representative to New York for the Heisman Trophy 4 of the last 5 seasons. Will they have a representative in New York this season?
Man, that's a tough one. It may not be the quarterback. It could well be the wide receiver. Marvin Harrison Jr. could be that guy this year. He's being, put up there as the number 1 wide receiver in the country. And in some lists, he's number 2 on the Heisman list to the returning winner, Caleb Williams from USC, the quarterback. And, Caleb Williams very reasonably could win that award for the second time and become just the second 2-time winner of the Heisman Trophy, joining Archie Griffin, obviously from Ohio State in the mid-1970s. So, so I guess kind of depends, again, how good this offense will be, how good the quarterbacks will be, how good the offensive line will be, and if Marvin Harrison Jr. can flourish. Obviously, he and Emeka Egbuka had very similar numbers. They were both in the 70s or 80s in terms of catches, both of them in double digits in terms of touchdowns last season. And will they play deep into games? Will they pile up huge numbers? Will 8 catches for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns be enough, week in and week out? Just as, throw those benchmark numbers out there. Will that be enough to get him to New York? Will that be enough for them to go 12-0, 13-0? I don't know. I guess there's so many variables involved in it, but Marvin would be probably their top candidate if you had to pick one.
Okay. All right. Let me just ask you a couple more questions, because I know you got to go here. So Jim Knowles and everyone else seems to think the defense is much improved. Second year in the system, you got blue chip guys at each level with Eichenberg. You got JTT up there. You got Sonny Styles in the back end, and you mix in a handful of other really, really good, talented guys. Let me ask you this, though. Can the defense possibly carry the offense, at least maybe at the beginning of the season, as the offense has kind of carried the defense the last few seasons?
Yeah, that's a possibility. I think the offense is going to be fine. I think once they get their feet under them and get their feet wet with a few games, I think that they will improve as the season goes along in terms of that offensive line. I think they'll only get better. There is star power on that defense, though, when you look at it, with Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, Kenyatta Jackson, potentially at defensive end, Tyleik Williams, Mike Hall, Ty Hamilton, defensive tackle. Those are some studs there across the front four. Eichenberg, Chambers, even CJ Hicks, prized recruit from a year ago in the linebacker group. Sonny Styles, a blue chipper last year as well, is certainly going to start, according to Jim Knowles, at safety. Denzel Burke had a little bit of a sophomore jinx last year, was banged up. Now he's in a position as a junior to play his way into the NFL with a big season. I think he and Jordan Hancock at cornerback, Davison Igbinosun, the transfer from Ole Miss, and then Jahad Carter, the transfer from Syracuse, coming in at safety. You've got depth, you've got options at every one of these positions across the board, and they've really built it up. The defense will be improved. That is my solemn vow to you. at least until they play a great offense that can expose some things. And there's some tough games on this schedule, no question. But, kind of all is going to come down to that Michigan game once again. They've got two great running backs with Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. And if Ohio State can contain the run against Michigan, establish the run, I think there's only been once or twice in the last 30 years that the team that did not win the rushing battle won that game. And, that kind of says it all. Got to be able to line up and run the football, got to be able to stop the run on defense, dictate the line of scrimmage. That's the team that's going to come out of this thing at the end.
That's a great stat. I love that. All right. So, Steve, before we let you go, I know you got to get down to campus and stuff, and you guys got interviews and stuff tonight. Let me ask you two more questions here. One, so the Big Ten, the former Big Ten, is going to soon be the Big 18 or whatever, however they're going to rebrand it. So your thoughts on not just USC and UCLA, the LA schools coming in, but also the Pacific Northwest, Oregon and Washington coming in to the Big Ten?
Yeah, Justin, I look at it as more just a loosely arranged television partnership is what this is. I mean, there's no collegiality among 18 schools. I mean, I don't no rivalries to speak of. It just kind of strikes you really cold when you think about it. And it's unfortunate that this is what college football has grown to become, this big conglomerate. It's going to be whittled down probably to 2 or 3 major conferences, one mega division of 60, upper echelon schools that are going to squeeze out all the small schools, and the access to the playoff eventually, I think, is their plan. And you can see that that's where it's headed. It's just getting from point A to point B. I mean, one day there probably won't even be conference championships because it's an obsolete compact. There's no reason for it other than to, as it stands right now, the way that the playoff is written, it has been put together this way so that the top conference champions get buys to the playoff. Well, with the Pac-12 being dissolved after this season, essentially, there's one automatic berth that's by the wayside. And will the Power 2, 3, 4, whoever survives, Big 10, SEC, ACC, Big 12, will they just autonomously say, no more of this? We're going to make this a closed shop, and maybe we'll give the others one spot. But again, it's all a money grab. There's no reason for it, no rational reason for it. Ohio State fans don't want to stay up till 10 o'clock to watch a West Coast game. Oregon, Washington, great places to play, once every 20, 30 years, but now trying to go there once every 4 years or whatever it is. A trip to the West Coast every year now, it looks like it'll be at least one trip to the West Coast. Just think about how much that disrupts your schedule. Those schools on the West Coast are going to have to make 5 or 6 trips to the Central and Eastern time zone. Just think how much that'll disrupt their season. So you can't have 5 open weeks, in the course of a 13-game season to rest up from your latest trip from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean or vice versa. So I don't know, not real excited about it, but it's what they think is best going forward. So I guess we'll see how it works out.
Cherish 2023 because 2024 is going to be a whole new ball game, new playoff system and everything.
Yep.
All right, Steve, last question, then I'm going to let you out of here. YSU, Youngstown State, obviously coming to town in Columbus, September 9th. Obviously, we know Jim Tressel, former coach, former president here at Youngstown State, former national championship coach at both schools. But I think we talked about this before, but I just want your opinion because this could be the last time YSU plays at Ohio State, especially with these new playoff rules and whatnot, new schedules. Should the band and should Ohio State or however that works, should this be the one time we bring Jim Tressel down, let him dot the I in Script, Ohio?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And I wrote a column about a week or two ago about that very subject. I asked the band director, he said that as of right now, they're not doing any guest IDOTs because they're still trying to get, believe it or not, 3 years later, still trying to get caught up from COVID when these sousaphone players had their time pushed back, so to speak, to me that rings a little bit hollow. They have done 2 script Ohio's in a given game to get caught up, so they can always do that as well. One before the game, one at halftime, whatever, to get it caught up. I think you can't get enough of script Ohio, for goodness sake. So,
Exactly.
yeah, he should definitely be recognized and honored. I mean, if Earl Bruce dotted the I, Jim Tressel did, 10 times as much for Ohio State University as Earl Bruce did. And, I think that he should get that honor. And not only that, they have signs on the facade of Ohio Stadium with Paul Brown and Woody Hayes, who were both national championship coaches. Jim Tressel deserves a similar sign to recognize his 2002 national championship, 7 Big Ten championships, and a 9-1 record against the University of Michigan. I think that would be a fitting tribute for him. And certainly Urban Meyer as well at some point would deserve a sign on the facade of Ohio Stadium for leading the Buckeyes to the 2014 national championship as well. So, I guess those are things in the offing. I didn't bring that up to Gene Smith, who is retiring next year. Ohio State just hired a new president today, Ted Carter, coming over as the president from Nebraska. He's a Navy guy, spent basically his entire adult life in the military, and was the head of the military academy for a number of years as well. He'll be taking over in January as the new president at Ohio State University. And so, some new blood coming in, and he'll hire a new athletic director, obviously with Gene Smith retiring next year. But yeah, no question, the Youngstown State game, and why Ohio State has dragged their feet on this or put their head in the sand on this or turned their head to this or is not even thought about this. Ludicrous. The whole thing's ludicrous. So it's what we have are non-Ohio State people running Ohio State. So
yeah,
that'll tell you where we're at.
Well, we got a couple, less than a couple weeks to get it done. So hopefully, I'm sure Tressel can figure out how to tip his hat and get that honor that he so deserves. So Steve, we appreciate you as always joining us. We know you got to go, so everybody make sure to follow Steve on social. And Steve, where can they read your stuff again?
Yeah, bucknuts.com. We're part of the 24/7 Sports Network. We're owned by CBS, and we have college sites at all the major schools. And bucknuts.com is the Ohio State site. We've been around since 1998. I've been with them since 2003. This will be my 29th season full-time on Ohio State football, and I think it'll be 35 years or 36 years on Ohio State men's basketball coming up this year. So yeah, I've been around. I've seen a few things here coming and going. So, yep, looking forward to the season and heading to Indiana next Saturday. Looking forward to that first game.
All right. Well, Steve, wish you and the Buckeyes a great season. We'll check in with you later in the season. But again, we appreciate your knowledge and your talent. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, Justin. Take care.
All right. So once again, Steve Helwagen of 24/7 Sports or bucknuts.com. Appreciate him as always joining us on the show. So with that, there's a lot of information there Steve gave us. So we're going to see. I mean, is it going to be Kyle McCord or is it going to be Devin Brown? Is it going to be both of them? But regardless, I think they got to get that starting quarterback in line for the Notre Dame game, which is the week 4 this season. So Notre Dame actually plays this Saturday in Ireland against Navy. So they're going to have they're playing, technically this is called week 0. So Notre Dame's going to kick off this weekend with a handful of other games going on. So we'll check in more with Ohio State later as we get closer to the season. We'll have plenty of Ohio State coverage for you throughout the season. So this football season, we're going to be covering a lot of stuff. So we're going to be covering Ohio State, We're going to be covering college football. We're going to be covering Youngstown State. We're going to be covering Mount Union. We're going to be covering the Cleveland Browns, the AFC North, and the NFL as a whole. So a lot of football talk throughout the fall, and a lot of things that are going to be pretty exciting. One other thing I wanted to mention: on Thursday, we will have the Penguin Collective joining us. And if you're not familiar with what a collective is, it has been put into law about a year ago, where college players, we've had several YSU women's basketball players on here that are currently in that NIL situation, name, image, likeness. So they can be paid, they can make money off their name, image, and likeness. And that's what Will and Tim are going to join us from Penguin Collective on Thursday's show and tell us kind of how that works, how you can get involved, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be exciting, and we'll talk some YSU football with them on Thursday. So, Joe, let's transition and let's go into a little Cleveland Browns talk. So, you and I were talking before the show, and I had mentioned I was so frustrated. I got home from Florida on Thursday. You were in New Jersey, New York, Thursday, and I get home. I put on YouTube TV, which, you know, usually works great. Put it on, and the Browns game, which was also on our local affiliate, was also on the NFL Network, was blocked for me on both sites. I was pissed because I didn't get a chance to. I watched a little bit of the preseason, the kickoff, the first game. I didn't get a chance to see the Commanders game. I was in Florida for that, and it's usually only played on like local TV. So I was just frustrated. Like, you know, it's preseason football. It really doesn't count all that much, but you still want to watch a little bit to kind of get like a feel for it. You can watch the game notes, you can recap and all that, but I don't know. I was frustrated with it. So,
Yeah,
but you got to watch it though.
I did. Well,
Yeah.
I
Or
was
at least
in
some
close
of it.
I was in New Jersey, so it was close proximity to Philadelphia. So
Good point.
I picked it up on probably a Pennsylvania network.
Okay.
For sure. But it would have been the same thing if it weren't out of area game that I'd have been blocked too. And it's crazy because it doesn't have to be that. With today's technology, you should be able just to buy the feed from whoever it is, the NFL. It's just not like that.
Can I tell you, like, I'm sure somebody else has had this idea, but I think this would be such a smart, such a commonsensical idea. And we have talked about this before, but the NFL, if they would provide the feed for the game, the video, but they bring in guys, you know, national guys, whether it be the top crew, Romo and Jim Nance, or you know, Buck and Aikman, or whoever it might be. But then there's, like, you know, the B team, the C team, the D team, whatever. Those guys and gals aren't experts on those two particular teams. They study them for a few days as they go in. Wouldn't it make a ton of sense to have the local, like, whether it's Jim Donovan and Nathan Zagura, like, do the game in the local markets? Like, wouldn't that to me, that makes so much sense.
Well, I mute those idiots out anyhow.
Yeah,
and
right.
Put on the Browns feed anyhow. Now, one thing I was trying to think when I was watching the feed in New Jersey, the commentators were very like pro Philadelphia. So I don't know if that was the national feed or I was picking up something where they had local dudes.
I think with the preseason, unless it's like an ESPN telecast, I think it's that local affiliate. So it's going to be like, so for the Browns, when they're at home, it'll be like Joe Thomas and Zagura or whoever it might be up in the booth with them. So you get that like hometown feel.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that be cool with each game? At least if you had the option. I don't know how they would do that on TV if you, like, you know how you can click like Spanish, you know, subtitles or whatever it might be, or whatever they call that. But I don't know. To me, I think that would be
technology that should be super easy.
You would think that would be like, or there's just the CBS A, CBS B, you know, whatever it might be, but that's probably more money. And
the, you know, when they do provide like a direct NFL feed, like when you're whatever that was on DirecTV or whatever, the NFL Sunday Ticket.
Yeah.
I thought it was garbage. Like I really hated the coverage because there would be action on the field going on and they would be somewhere else, like whatever. And I hate that. Just show me the field.
Well, and the Red Zone channel is cool. I don't have that subscription. Every now and then I'll like check in, or they'll give you like that free preview trial. That's kind of cool because they flip from channel to channel, like based on when a team's about to score or show you a big highlight or something that just happens. But yeah, like you said, it's not the most exciting way to do it.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I think they give a subpar product so that it gives an advantage to the affiliates. So everybody doesn't subscribe to that. Now, if they really wanted to kill it, they'd put the Manning brothers on and really destroy all commentary. It'd be like, I'll take Joe Buck over those idiots.
Yeah. Well, and some people absolutely love them, which I guess bad. I get, but
terrible.
I would rather like
terrible.
To me, if it's a Browns game, I am not watching the Manning cast. I'll watch like the regular announcers. But if it's like a game I don't really care a whole lot about, maybe I'll tune in if they have like an interesting person on an interview or something. But other than that, yeah, I don't really ever watch it. So I don't know. But I think for ESPN, all it matters is the eyes that are on that screen, and thus bringing in that revenue. So
yeah, that's it.
You know, that's all that matters. And they, I don't think, care if people are watching ESPN or ESPN2 as long as they're watching, you know? So, okay. So Joe, let's get down to like a little bit of the Browns and like, so what are your initial thoughts on it's preseason? I know we've talked about this, but like, give me some bullet points on what you've seen so far this year.
So I don't think as highly of DTR as I did the first game.
Yeah.
He looked very erratic, very happy feeding around. And he did not look comfortable. I mean, they were very complimentary after the game that he did have poise in there, but I didn't see it. I thought that he did a far less job. Now, down the road, he gets some experience. He enters on some kind of journeyman, and he's going to be great. But right now, let's not put in a backup spot.
Yeah, I think people like really... And with Browns fans, you know, for a while, the preseason is all, you know, if you look, the season we went 0-16, we actually went 4-0 in the preseason. So it's like the preseason means jack squat, you know, it means nothing. So Deshaun Watson's your quarterback. I think, as you said, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, DTR, is your future backup, but Josh Dobbs is going to be the backup during the season, especially hypothetically. Let's just say, you know, knock on wood, Deshaun Watson gets abducted by aliens at halftime of one game and has to miss a quarter before they bring him back.
More likely Chris Harrison, but
oh boy. So by the way, did you see? I saw he was in Boardman.
Who? Chris Hansen?
No, Deshaun Watson.
I got nervous for a minute.
What are you doing, John? Here, why don't you sit down? Why don't you take a seat? By the way, that show, that they need to bring that show back. That was the most entertaining show on TV.
What? I want to see the political version where they just target congressmen and senators. Oh, that would be that
would be phenomenal. Okay, back to Deshaun Watson was in Boardman for some plaza opening or something. I saw like a week ago.
Yes.
I was out of town, so I wasn't around, but I heard it went well and all that stuff, and there was over 1,000 people lined up to meet him, get free ice cream, whatever it might be. So, but anyway, now I forgot where we were going. Oh, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So Deshaun Watson's your quarterback. Hypothetically, if he has to miss a quarter, you probably want a veteran guy coming in at the tip of a hat. You know what I mean? And then I think DTR would be better served if, let's say, Watson had to miss 2 weeks and he could prep for that week going into the game rather than just throw him in to the fire.
Yeah,
my personal opinion. But let's just hope neither of them have to play the whole season. So that's the Browns' only way they're going to make the playoffs this year. So so we're looking at Watson, we're looking at Josh Dobbs as your backup, and you're looking at DTR as your third string. The way the NFL is allowing it this year, you are allowed to carry and dress a third quarterback. You could do that in the past, but they will allow all teams to carry an emergency third quarterback
as a
this year.
53rd or 50
as a Well, you're allowed to have a 53-man roster, but you're only allowed to dress like 48 or 49 or something. There's always a couple inactives. I'm not exactly sure how that works and the numbers, but he will be dressed on the sideline. And like, if hypothetically, like I said, Watson sprains an ankle or something, and then Josh Dobbs, I don't know, let's say his helmet falls off and he has to come out. I believe the only way, if that third quarterback goes in, I think neither of the other two quarterbacks can come back in the game. The way the new rule is written. So, but either way, he'll be there. He'll be ready to go through backups. He'll be able to see the game live from the field and just see how the NFL game works and evolve and get better. So,
all right, so let's go Cade York.
All right, yeah, Cade York.
So, I mean, lots of discussion. We have Schwartz and York who've been like a festering deal where they need to get their stuff together. They need to get their suitcases packed, one of the two. Now, of the two, though, I think York is fixable. I really do.
I do too. I think it's up here.
Yeah.
It's not talent.
No, he's not at all.
He's super talented.
So what is it? Is it the golfing thing, the mental block, because I read some theories today about the placeholder not doing a good job of getting the ball down quick enough. And then Cade has to wait for the ball to be placed and it's throwing off his timing.
So my pushback to that would be, aren't they doing the same thing in practice? And apparently he's making them all in practice. So
unless there's a pressure during a game and the placeholder is not doing as good during a game. But they should be able to review that tape and find out if this is not a York thing.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what the answer is. I think, like you said, it's a mental thing. He's got the yips or whatever it might be. Because I mean, this is a guy that when he played at LSU, he made like a 57-yard game-winning field goal in the fog in the swamp, which is in Florida, and enemy territory, 90,000 fans screaming, at him in a rivalry game, can make that kick, can make that first kick against Carolina last year to win the game basically on the last play of the game for the Browns against the Panthers last year. But it's like in the preseason, you're missing, you miss your first field goal. And I think he kept missing right from what I, understand and what I've seen on the highlights. And then there was that penalty after he missed it. So he got another chance and then he missed it left. He overcorrected, which goes to your point. I'm missing right. Let's fix it. Let's go left and maybe it'll go down the center. So there's something off.
Here's my strategy. I'm gonna give it away for free.
Okay.
All right. So let's do this. Beginning of the year, let's say, listen, we're not going to do any field goals. We're going to go fourth down, just running Chubb. We're going to try to get, why not?
Okay.
Until he's made 20 point afters in a row.
Okay.
Okay. So he gets to that point and it's consistent with point afters. Then we'll start letting him do 35s. Right.
Okay.
And just start building some successes under the dude. There you go.
There's something to be said about that. And I think Stefanski is a type that is a go for it. But let's say you're at the 20-yard line, but it's fourth and goal at the 20. You're not going for fourth and goal, whereas you're kicking a 37-yard field goal.
Let's count them all as anything that's in the range of point afters. We'll consider that.
Okay. So nothing higher. You all right? So nothing higher than like a 40-yarder right
exactly.
now.
Yep.
Okay.
And then anything longer than that, let's not think 70-yarders and game-winning 59-yarders. Let's just think about hitting point afters, and anything else is go for it.
Okay. I mean, I'm not opposed to that idea. I like the aggressiveness, but I have some stats to push back on you for. So I'm giving this from I want to give credit to Mike Lucas because he put this out on Twitter. So 18.7% of NFL games have been decided by 3 points or less. So that's this is since 2003. So almost 1 out of every 5 games is decided by 3 points or less. That's 479 games since 2003. That's a lot. So 3 points. And look at that Eagles game. He makes one of those field goals. He made the first 3. So we'll give him credit for that. He made the first 3. And I believe the first one was right smack dab down the middle. So he made the first 3, but then it was crunch time. It was 18-18, and he missed. And then the flag gave him another chance, missed again. So technically, that's not 3 out of 4. That's 3 out of 5, which is 60%. So here's another stat. 28% of games have been decided by 1, 2, or 3 points. 28%. That is 715 games since 2003 have been decided by 1, 2, or 3 points. It is a very slim margin in the NFL because every team is talented. Even the worst team, the Arizona Cardinals, the Indianapolis Colts, whoever you want to say is one of the worst teams in the league this year, they still have a lot of talent on that roster. So it's a very thin margin of error. So even the Chiefs last year, I think their average margin of victory was 7 points. So, that's the Super Bowl champion, 7 points. The Browns are a very good team, but they will be in a lot of close games. I have a feeling this year. Let's even say it's like only 7 of their 17 games are close. That's still like 40% of your schedule. So I don't know. It's a lot.
So you're the coach. What do you do with York? How long do you go into a season with that cloud?
Yeah, you know what? Because I have had players when I coached basketball, totally different sport at the high school level, very different than at the pro level, that have had like some, they were really good shooters and then they would get to the free throw line all of a sudden and struggle. So it's like they have to get into a routine. I think it's like you have to have like, I don't know if it's like you have him like talk to like not a therapist, but like a counselor in like a positive way, like a positive mindset type thing, like someone that, because I don't know if you're a golfer or not, but if you go up, and I'm someone that I'm a very average golfer, but what happens if you go up to the tee with a negative mindset? Don't hit it in the water. Don't hit it in the water. What do? You hit it in the water or you chunk it or whatever. It's like, I think we have to make sure his mindset is in the right frame of mind. And, you're going to have misses. We're not expecting him to make 98% of his kicks, but I think 85 to 90 is a good,
Right.
a good range, especially.
And he was like a 50% or something?
I think he was at 75% last year, which 75% sounds,
I mean, in the
okay.
preseason, like
Yeah.
50%.
Yeah. It's like it's right in that 50% range. Not good. Yeah. Not good. You got to be at, I'm going to make up a number, 83%. I think that's 83%. That's like 6 out of 7. So every 6 out of 7. But like, what if that 7th kick is a game winner, or ends up deciding a game win or lose? That's a big difference.
All right. So see which of my ideas you like.
Sure. Yes.
So the first one is that you hire Phil Dawson as a consultant.
Yes.
To just hang out with him, just live on the sidelines with him, and talk this dude up and talk the game. And
pay him whatever he wants.
Anything. Option 2. Send him to Aaron Rodgers and go on a mushroom trip and reset his brain.
I think those ayahuasca trips are like 10 days. So, I mean, we're getting close to the season here.
You got enough time.
Okay.
Or number 3, you get rid of him and pull in a 40-year-old veteran that can do chip shots for you.
I think number 3 is maybe the middle choice for the Browns.
Wait, which one did you just miss? I need to know.
I think the ayahuasca trip is a close third. I'm going to say Phil Dawson 1, bring him in, be a consultant, work with him, talk with him through everything that's going on, because I mean, we're talking like we're in August too with good weather and whatnot. Like there's gonna be November and December games that are, you've been in that stadium, you know what it's like. It's windy, it's cold. That ball's probably like a brick to them, but he's got the leg power. He's got the strength. He's actually got 2 legs, believe it or not. but that one leg is there's a great kicker in there. It's just all up here. And
see, I don't want to see him kicking 70-yarders pregame. I want to see him just hang out at the 40. That's all you got to do.
Yes. It's like when I see like Shaq or somebody like in the past, like they're like warming up behind the 3-point line. It's like, damn well you're not taking a 3-pointer. Get in there and work on what you do well and get better at it. So yeah, I like that idea. Get really good at those 30, 40 yards. And obviously there's going to be different factors that go in, whether the pressure the defense puts on it, the snap, the hold, all that stuff. But if you can control what you can control, and if it's a good snap, it's a good hold, and your line does its job, you should be thinking, I'm making this every time. And apparently when they drafted him, they said that was one of his strong points. He is this guy that's a big time routine guy and does everything the way he should and supposed to. But I think there's just something off, and I don't think you can release him though, because they've put a lot into this guy. And there's so much in this season, though, that it's like now I'm kind of going the other way. There's so much. The season's so important that you can't be goofing around. So maybe you do bring in a competition.
But remember, he's ruined for life if you let him go out at this level.
Yeah,
he's done.
Well, no, I think what happens is if we release him, he catches on with a different team and becomes like an all-world kicker. So
they know that about us. So they've sniffed at us before.
So I don't know what the answer is, but I think positive mindset, get somebody in the building to help him and fix that problem, because he is too good to mess up.
All
so
right. Next one.
All right.
Anthony Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, he's gone.
There's no value at this point. I mean, they tried to end around run him, and he's fumbling.
First time he touched the ball in preseason, fumble. He has had a couple nice moments this preseason. I saw a couple nice catches, but then it's like you can't make a couple nice catches and then drop the fourth one. It's like you have to be more consistent. And yes,
well, what's his problem then? Like, let's figure him out.
I just think the Browns overvalued his speed rather than the skill it takes to be an NFL wide receiver. The hands, the eyes.
See, but if it were that, he would have been released year number 2. He's been on that roster as a broken wheel for 4 years.
This
now.
is the third year.
Third year.
Yeah. But still, I think it's like he's got that world-class speed, and you hear about that, but it's like, yeah, well, so do all these other guys in the NFL. I'm looking for consistency, and I don't think you can have a guy that, it's like, hey, that's great if you can beat the guy that's covering you by 2 yards, but if you can't catch the ball, what's the point? It's as good as spiking it into the ground. You know what I'm saying? It's the same old story. So
Yeah.
I don't know. So Anthony Schwartz to me does not make this roster. So I actually had 6 wide receivers making the roster. Can I show you my offensive roster that I predict? Now I have 24 players on offense. Now I think the wide receiver position, we could possibly see, the return guy, Jakeem Grant, make that as a 7th receiver, but I added this up so it got to 53. Now I think you're going to see some changes on this. So quarterbacks, I had 3: Watson, Dobbs, Robinson. Maybe you keep Kellen Mond as a practice squad guy. Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford. I don't know. What do you think about Felton, the running back? Do you think he makes this team?
I do.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
So Felton might be your TBA there that I have. Okay. So we'll put Demetric Felton on that. Njoku, Harrison Bryant, Jordan Akins. People love Jordan Akins. He is a 6'7" tight end. Former player with the Houston Texans with Watson. So people love him. Harrison Bryant, though, I have not seen the whole preseason. I don't know where he's at. So hopefully everything's okay with him, because I don't know.
Yeah, and I would really like to see them use tight ends all year long, not just in certain situations. I would like them to really lean on those guys.
Yeah, no doubt. And then the receiving core is one of the strengths of the team, I think. So you got Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore, who has been raved about, and by all accounts should be an elite player for you. Cedric Tillman looks like a stud.
Heck yeah.
Really does. Probably be your 4th receiver. And then I put on the roster David Bell, former 3rd-round pick last year. Has great hands, but hasn't done anything to wow you. You know what I mean? Just kind of there right now. So hopefully he can step up. And then Austin Watkins has been kind of the talk of the preseason for the Browns. Had like over 100 yards in the last game. I think has a couple 100 yards and a couple touchdowns this preseason. So he looks like he could be a player. And I put him on the roster just based on his production so far.
And I think DPJ is going to be his year. He is going to stand out.
I think the Browns I think the Browns are going to throw it a lot this year.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be fun. We know the 5 starters: Jed Wills, Joel Bitonio, Ethan Posick, Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin are your starters on the line. Luke Whippler out of Ohio State has impressed. James Hudson looks to be your kind of your swing tackle, your guy that can play left tackle, right tackle if someone gets hurt. But the talk of the camp outside of DTR and Watkins has been DeJuan Jones, the enormous tackle from Ohio State. This guy is like 6'8", 360 pounds, but he might be your future left or right tackle based on the skill level he has, the size, and not to mention he's on a rookie contract and he was a 4th round pick.
Did I read that they were lining him up on the left side at
Yeah.
this point?
Yeah. So they put him on the left side at practice apparently yesterday or the day before, and he's holding his own. And he was holding his own against a 1st round pick for the Eagles in that game. Has played the majority of snaps in all of the games, and I think has allowed like 1 pressure so far. So good stuff out of them. So that's the players I put on offense for the Browns. I had 24. So we know this has to add up to 53. So there's 3 specialists. So that will mean there is 26 on the defensive side of the ball. Now, we're not 100% sure on all this, but I want to give you just my thoughts on this. But the defense has looked really good, really, really good. And that's without Myles Garrett playing mostly. But Zadarius Smith looks to be a freak defensive lineman that they brought in this offseason. Obo, I'm just going to call him to not butcher it. Yeah, exactly. Oh. But apparently they're going to play Myles Garrett, obviously, on probably whatever the premier matchup is. But you're going to have a lot of guys that can get after the passer. So it's going to be nice. The Browns are going to have a lot of pressure. They signed Shelby Harris last week, the veteran from the Seattle Seahawks. They brought in Dalvin Tomlinson, Siaki Ika. Now, I have Jordan Elliott on this list. I put this out on social media yesterday. A lot of people disagreed with me and said they think Jordan Elliott is gone. So I don't know. Former 3rd rounder. So we'll see about that. And I put Maurice Hurst in there, a former Michigan Wolverine, former 49er, but I guess he has done a very, very nice job this preseason.
This next list is where I got all of my attention.
The linebackers.
Oh yeah.
So Jacob Phillips is out for the season. He tore his pec muscle. I think he did the same thing last year. So unfortunately, he's out for the year. He's on the PUP list or whatever they call it.
Half of our linebackers were hurt all of last year.
They really were. JOK is great, but you can't necessarily count on him. Tony Fields, really good special teamer. I think can help you. Sione Takitaki, I think he's back and healthy. Anthony Walker, I really like Anthony Walker, but again, was hurt all of last year or most of last year. Now, a guy I know Jim Schwartz, the defensive coordinator, loves is Jordan Kanashik, number 51. And then I put, I hope I get this name right, Mama Moa. I got the yips in my head on that one. Let's just call him Diabate. So he has been one of the sensations in camp and making a ton of plays on on defense, and I think will be a good special teamer. So I think he makes the 53-man roster. So what do you think about that that linebacking core?
Scares me every time because you got 3 common faces that spend a lot of time on IR and off the field. So it still scares me that they're there. I love their talent when they're there.
Exactly. But one thing I think is the Browns will play a lot of only 2 linebackers this year on the field, because I think you're going to have 5 DBs out there, or possibly even 5 defensive linemen, or like a 5-1-5, whatever numbers you want to use to add up to 11. So a 5-1-5, a 5-2-4, whatever it might be, to get more pressure on the quarterback. I think the linebackers are going to have a lot more help this year too, with that bolstered defensive front. So
I might be ruining a future thing here. So you got extra cap space now. So who are you really pursuing out of what so far of what we mentioned? I mean, we're pretty stacked in all the departments. Kicker's not going to cost you anything if you do have to pursue.
Right.
So what's your need? Are you going after a linebacker?
No, I saw that yesterday. You're talking about like the Myles Garrett. They
restructured two contracts, freed up 30-some million.
So what I think that money is for, because it says the Browns have the most cap space in the NFL. And yes, they can use it. But what I think they're doing is saving a lot of that to roll over for next year. So they're not over the cap next year. That's just kind of my thinking. I don't fully understand the salary cap. It's very complicated. There's smarter people than me out there that know what they're talking about with that. But I think what they're doing is taking a lot of that money and going to roll it over. Now, what I will say is if there's a veteran that comes, gets cut down on that 53-man roster, maybe they're like, oh, he's making too much for his production, or we want to maybe go a younger route. I think you could see the Browns jump in on maybe a veteran running back, possibly, maybe if Goodwin isn't available. So I didn't have him on my initial list. If Goodwin can play, he's on the roster, Marquise Goodwin. But if they can't, maybe they find a speedy veteran that can stretch the field and, be that guy they hoped Schwartz would be, or hoped that Goodwin would be, because I think that's the only missing piece on offense. So
and the more offensive weapons you give Watson, the better your offense is going to be.
Well, yeah. And it's also like a rubber band. If you stretch the field long ways, you're going to open it up, horizontally, and vice versa. You open it up horizontally, hopefully you can stretch the field and hit them over the top for a big play. So, I don't know. Let's take one more look at the rest of the defense here. Cornerbacks. I have Ward, Newsome, Emerson, who by all accounts, those are 3 of the best cornerback trios in the NFL. I put Mike Ford, who's a great special teamer they picked up from Atlanta, and then Cameron Mitchell, their draft pick out of Northwestern, as the 5th cornerback. And then I initially had 4 safeties, but Ronnie Hickman, the undrafted rookie out of Ohio State, has, I think, 3 interceptions already in the preseason. He had 1 at Ohio in his Ohio State career. So, so I think based on production, he could make the 53, or at the very least, maybe they can sneak him through to the practice squad and, bring him up if needed.
See, do you miss like a John Johnson in that backfield?
I really don't.
No?
I think the safeties are going to be much improved this year. I think with what they have and this style of defense, I think Delpit is in for a big year. And I really think they got some good stuff on the defensive side of the ball with who am I missing? Rodney McLeod. They brought in from, I believe, Indianapolis, and then and Juan Thornhill from the Chiefs, 2-time Super Bowl champion, has only played like 4 years in the league, so he brings that veteran winning experience to the team already. So I think they're going to be solid in the back half. And the best thing, I heard Greg Newsome say this the other day. They said the defensive line is getting after the quarterback so fast that they can be, like he called it, sticky, that they can just stick to the wide receivers, don't have to cover very long. And then hopefully that creates more turnovers this year for the Browns defense and gives that offense a shorter field.
Helps.
And then pound it in, get those 7 instead of 3.
Did you notice how on some of those plays DTR had forever in that pocket?
Yes.
I was so impressed.
Well, it's because our backup offensive line is as good as a lot of starting offensive lines in the NFL. That's a great problem to have with who we have. And I think the Browns are really, really deep this year. They are a very, very good team. But you can be good on paper. You got to go do it out on the field. And then let's take a look at the schedule, because 3 of the first 4 games are in your division. 2 of them are at home. So I think you got to go at worst 2-2 that first 4 weeks. And then, obviously 3-1 would be wonderful. But, you open up against the Bengals, who Joe Burrow has not practiced at more than like 2 or 3 snaps this preseason because of the calf injury. So I don't know what his status is. You go to Pittsburgh on a Monday night, which that'll always be tough. And Pittsburgh is not a bad team. They're not a great team, but they're not a bad team. And we all know it's hard to win in Pittsburgh. And then you got the Titans, who coached by Mike Vrabel, who's an Ohio State guy, who's from Canton, Ohio. So he's going to want to win that game. He's going to have that team ready to go. And then you play against the Ravens, another division foe. So 3 of your first 4 games are against division opponents, and 3 of those first 4 are at home. So big time stuff for the Browns. They got to get off to a hot start, or at least a 2-2 start. And I think it's imperative that they, I don't think it's asking too much to go 3-1 in those first 4 games.
Yeah, and I did see 2 AFC North rankings that had Cleveland in that top position ahead of the Bengals.
And with Joe Burrow's injury, I don't think I feel like as a Browns fan in the past, it's been like hopeful and like a hopeless romantic. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, you're always looking, but it's never going to be good for you. But I feel like this year, it really everything's there for this team. Everything. The defensive line is great. It's fixed. They have big defensive tackles. The offensive line is great. Usually where you win in football is on the lines. You have really good skill positions at the wide receiver. You have the best running back in football. Your quarterback 2-3 years ago was one of the best quarterbacks in football. You went out, you traded for him, you paid him a lot of money. I think this team goes where Deshaun Watson goes. I think that is, priority number 1 is making sure Deshaun Watson is ready to go and those players are fully engaged. And you can't get off to a slow start. You got to be ready to go from that first kickoff of the season.
Only little piece of our armor is if we lose by 3 points or less.
Yeah, and let's get Cade York figured out because even those extra points, we need every one of those points.
One of them.
So
see, and back to our arcade discussion, we're hoping for 86%, meaning there are going to be some misses.
Mm-hmm.
But the next miss that he has is going to be put in the pile of the 50% misses, not the 87% makes.
Sure.
And that's why, this dude just needs to pack on the successful shots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just it's easier said than done, but have a short memory. Don't worry about if you made or missed the last one. Focus on this one, knock it through the uprights, and easier for me to say than do. But
sorry to belabor that, but that's
that's really what it comes down to. But really, those first 4 weeks, and then you got to buy. So you go balls to the wall, you go all out those first 4 games, and then hopefully you can rest up, and then you're back.
Except for Jack Conklin, don't go balls out. JOK, take her easy.
Right.
Wyatt Teller.
Yep, exactly. So, and they're playing Saturday, and I think a lot of the starters are going to play. So this Saturday, and they just played the Super Bowl losing team. Now they're playing the Super Bowl champion. So they're getting a pretty good dose of really talented teams in the preseason to kind of see how they stack up against them. So we will see what the Browns end up doing, but hopefully get off to a hot start this year. And 3-1, I don't think is asking for too much. I saw they're a 1-point underdog right now as it stands versus the Bengals at home. So we'll see. And I think a lot of that will depend on Joe Burrow's health too, whether that line changes one way or the other. So one other topic I want to bring up with you before we go. Have you seen this blindside stuff?
I did.
This is weird.
Very weird.
So for anyone that doesn't remember Michael Orr, he was a offensive lineman for the Baltimore Ravens. Before that, he played at Ole Miss. And, there was the movie The Blind Side that came out. And he was adopted by, what's the family's name? Like the Toohey family or something like that. Right. But down in Mississippi, very Southern, very, like
Green Mile soft big dude though, right?
Yes, but I know he had a problem with that and the way he was portrayed in that film, because they made him seem like he was dumb. He's like, I'm a smart guy. I know what I'm doing, but they made him sound like he was dumb, I think, in that movie. And I think he's always taken that personally, which I would too, but they did something called a conserv how would you conservativeship? Okay. So it's a legal mechanism to help people who are considered unable to care for themselves or their finances. Isn't that what like Britney Spears had on her? Her dad had it on her. For a few years, and everyone was like, free Britney, whatever. But that's apparently what this Michael Oher had on him with this Toohey family, as opposed to an adoption, which everyone thought. So what's your thoughts on this?
It's too weird, and it's such a long time after that movie. There's more to it. It just seems so fishy.
Yeah, because, well, a couple things. Like, so real quick, if you don't know the context, the family that adopted him, the dad played basketball at Ole Miss, the wife was a cheerleader at Ole Miss, and they have like their name on one of the basketball arenas or something because they've given significant financial donations in the past. So this is a family that has money,
very wealthy, 200 million plus,
and they wanted this kid to play for their alma mater, but they didn't want NCAA violations for Ole Miss at the time. So there's a lot of slippery slopes in this story,
because it feels like a money thing, but then the family is already wealthy. That's unbelief. So you couldn't imagine them taking all these risks for a money thing when they really didn't need it.
So this conservatorship is he was already 18 at the time. So usually when you're adopting someone, they're below the age of 18. Not always. I don't know the exact rules of that, but it says in this conservatorship, it doesn't matter age, or anything like that. Right. So basically they're like, we're going to bring you in and you're going to play for our team, is kind of how it looks now.
Yeah.
But do you think, like, why do you think it's happening now? Like,
I don't know.
Like you said, it's fishy.
Yeah. Cause it's been so long. The story was already out there. Yeah. So if there was inaccuracies or whatever, that would have been like after the movie came out.
Right.
Instead of now. And I don't think the other shoe is dropped. We'll find out.
So a couple questions. He was a former first-round pick, so he made some money in the NFL, but I don't know if he held on to it or not. Some people are great with their money. Some people are not. But the movie also, usually movie rights come from like a book deal, and most of that money goes to like the publisher or the movie house. It's not going to, the family. Actors and actresses and all that. But Michael Oher probably didn't see a whole lot of money from that movie, maybe a little bit, but I don't know. So maybe it's a financial thing.
Could be,
but
it's
very
unlikely.
Interesting.
It's unlikely that it is, because again, that you're fighting against people who are already way loaded. And what?
Okay. Well, Joe, you got anything weird before we go to throw at me?
I was thinking about like what I could say that was weirder than what I've already said. So I think maybe we'll dedicate some time on the next show to going out there in left field.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. But on our next show, I will say one more thing. Again, we will have Will and Tim from the Penguin Collective on Thursday. Do you know a lot about the NIL stuff? I'm excited to like pick their brain and see how this really works and see how the finances go and who gets what money and this and that, but I like it because players really should be paid. And, sometimes I'm kind of curious too, to see if it goes on performance and stuff. I don't think they're allowed to do it like that, but we'll see. So anyway, tune in on that on Thursday. Want to thank Steve Helwagen for joining the show. As always, Joe Danyi for joining us. We are a Youngstown studio production. Appreciate you watching. Make sure to follow, like, share, subscribe, review, all that stuff on Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. But appreciate you watching, and we will talk to you on Thursday.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. If you like our programming, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Facebook page, or